All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. And to facilitate our understanding of being able to build a simple website, I've been doing a series of video presentations where I've done 9 on the hypertext markup language, HTML, which allows us to add content to a web page. I did 8 videos on cascading style sheets, or CSS, which allows us to style website content. And now I'm in about my 5th lecture on JavaScript, which allows us to go in and make a website more interactive. All right, we're really kind of talking about programming and stuff in here too. And if you remember earlier, and I think I still have it up here, yep, I talked about these data types. I'm not going to even read them. You can see them right there. But the key word here is this one. All right. And I'm going to try to explain primitive data types to you in 2 ways. First of all, the easy way is a primitive data type can only hold one value at a time. So here, if I say let again equal this, and then in the next line I say again equals 27, I can do that. But it can only hold one value or the other because primitive data types can only hold one value at a time. They're also called elementary data items because they can hold only one value at a time. The other way to explain this, I'll always remember this, that the first time I ever took a class in college at a lecture hall at a university, it was a child psychology class I was taking at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. And the room, I'm sure it held probably, I'm going to guess, 300 people. And the first day of class, it was filled. Everybody was in there. So this didn't happen, but let's pretend for a second that the class was supposed to start. Now it's 5 minutes later. And the way it works at a university typically is if the teacher isn't there by 10 or 15 minutes, you can leave. Well, let's suppose after 5 minutes, not the teacher, but one of the teacher's assistants walked in. And they had a humongous sack full of Legos. All right? Just bear with me for a second. And what they said was, the teacher's not going to be here for half an hour. He's running late today, but he doesn't want you to leave. Instead, we'd like to give each one of you a Lego. And we just play with that Lego until the instructor comes, please. So, if I go back in here, and again, believe me, I'm not trying to waste your time here, but I'm going to type in here Legos. All right, somewhere is going to give me a picture. There you go. So this 150-piece thing. So let's suppose there were 150 people in there and they give us each one. Okay, so we each have one of these pieces. Let's face it, after a minute or two, it's going to be pretty boring playing with your one little Lego. But if you look at the guy or the gal next to you and you go, you know what? Can I have your Lego? We'll build something together. And then you ask the person next to them, and the person next to them, and the person next to them. All right. Now you've got a collection of primary elements, of simple elementary data items. You've created what's called a data structure. One of the data structures that you can use in JavaScript is called an array. Now, one more way for you to think about this. This may help and it may not, but I've been in Missouri for about 5 years. All right. And when I moved here from Illinois, and my wife stayed for about a year or two because we had a daughter going to college. So I got an apartment, and I lived in an apartment by myself for a couple of years. So imagine that I lived at 123 Main Street in Wentzville, Missouri, 63385. Now that's not where I lived, but you get the idea, hopefully. And so the apartments were numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Oops, that didn't work out right, did it? All right. And I was in apartment 1. All right. And apartment 2 was John Brown. And apartment 3 was Mary Black. And apartment 4 was Sue Green. And apartment 5 was Stanley White. And apartment 6 was Millie Smith. In apartment 7 was Jackie Robbins. And in apartment 8 was Sue Miller. All right. Now there's a pretty good chance that if, let's see, can I make this a little bit bigger? That's about as big as I can make it, okay? All right, so there's a pretty good chance if somebody sent a letter to Jeff Scott at 123 Main Street, Wentzville, Missouri, 663385, there's a pretty good chance that the mail person would be smart enough to say, oh, Scott. Okay, yeah, and they put it in the right one. Now to make sure, if they said apartment number 1, well, now we got the right apartment in there. So that helps. All right, what if they did this? What if they said to Jeff Scott, but they put in here apartment 6? Would it go to Scott or would it go to Smith? I don't know. All right. But let's suppose, just bear with me for a second, that instead of numbering these 1 to 8, we numbered these from 0 to 7. We're computer people, and computer people like to start counting at 0, not at 1. All right. So, and let's say this whole thing collectively we're going to refer to as apartment. Okay, so I could say apartment 0 equals Scott. And let me make this a little bit easier. Apartment 1 equals Brown. Apartment 2 equals Black. Apartment 3 equals Green. Apartment 4 equal White. Apartment 5 equals Smith. Apartment 6 equals Robbins. And finally, apartment 7 equals Miller. Now, hopefully what I just did there makes a little sense. This syntax, etc., might look a little funky. So why am I even showing you that? All right. Because in JavaScript, I do something like this. Let apartment equal, and I'd say either this, which is the way most people do it, which means it's going to be an array, or if I want to make sure, I can say let apartment equal new array, paren, paren. Now that's a lot more typing, so I'm not even going to use that one. Okay, so let's forget about that one. All right, so I'm going to grab this. And I'm going to put that into my program here. So I created the array called apartment. It's empty right now. And I said this is called the first element. I put in Scott. The second element holds Brown. The third element holds Black. The fourth element holds Green. The fifth element holds White. The sixth element holds Smith. The seventh element holds Robbins. And the eighth element holds Miller. So I'm going to say right now that you go, yeah, that's fine, Jeff, but I don't believe you. Well, there's a simple way to do this with a loop, but we're not talking about loops yet. So I'm going to put in here alert. apartment 0 belongs to, oops, now if I put this in like this is going to say apartment 0 belongs to Scott. And I can do this 8 times. One, oops. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, oops, 3, 2, 1. Now let's run this and verify that indeed this prints out Scott, Brown, Black, Green, White, Smith, Robbins, Miller. Okay, so well, let's take a quick look. Let me run that again. 0 is Scott, 1 is Brown, 2 is Black, 3 is Green, 4 is White, 5 is Smith, 6 is Robbins, 7 is Miller. And that worked. There's not a problem with that. What if I did this? All right, forget this thing that says alert. I'm going to get rid of the word alert in front of all of these, except for the last one. All right, and now I'm going to create another variable here. And I'm just going to call it str, which is short for string. So let str, you don't have to do this. I'm just lining them up, but you don't have to do that. Equal nothing. So it equals nothing right now. So I'm going to say here str equals this. Equals apartment this belongs to. Okay? And I don't need these parentheses anymore. All right. Now I want to add on to that. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say str, instead of equals, I'm going to say plus equals, which means append this on. And I'm going to put a \n in here, which means it's like I hit the enter key. All right, so I'm going to grab this. All right, so now I've got all this. And you're like, well, yeah, you got it all, and it's a bunch of junk. No, not at all. Now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say alert str, and let's see what happens. See that? So what I used was called an escape character. \n is a new line. Okay? And it's much easier to read this than it is to read 8 different alert statements. Now, I'm not sure because JavaScript can be funky at times, but another thing that you'd use in here a lot, instead of this space, I'm going to put a \t in here, which is supposed to signify a tab character. And let's not tab the first one so we can see by looking at it whether or not the tabs appear to work or don't appear to work. All right, and it doesn't look like they worked in here. All right. Like I said, when you are working with alerts, some of this stuff is a little bit funky. So what if we didn't use an alert? What if we didn't use an alert? We could use the console. All right, so we could come in and we could replace this alert with a console.log. All right, and then when we run this, it will look like we have no output, but when you look in here and we go into the console, there it is. But it still doesn't look to me like it actually went in and it actually put in that tab character for me. So how do I get that in there? All right, well, how about if I try one more thing and I come in here and I replace this console.log with document.write, which means write this right to the page itself. Document.write str. Well, didn't work the way I thought it would. And I don't want to waste my time and I don't want to waste your time with this. So what I do want to do is quickly go back to here and talk about a few of the different methods that are available to you using arrays. Okay, so let me get rid of that, and let me get rid of that, and let me get to here. So an array is a special variable which can hold more than one value at a time. I showed you. You can also, when you create, so we could have done our array like this and put those values in there when we first created them. That would have been okay too. You can use the word new. I mentioned that before. I showed you how you can access the individual elements in the array. You can also go in and change the elements that are in the array. All right, what does that mean? Well, okay. So let's go back here where what we had before. Let's do our alert. Make sure that that works. And you can see everything's cool. Now, let's assume I bought a house. All right, I bought a house and I moved out. So now in apartment 0, it's now equal to Jones. Sarah Jones has moved in there. All right. So I come in and write it again. So the first time through, it's got me in there. The second time through, since I moved, it now has Jones in there. So that's how you can replace an existing array element. Now, there's all sorts of methods that you can use on arrays. All right, notice here, if I use length, kind of like what we looked at before, it says returns 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can loop through, but we haven't talked about loops yet. We're going to talk about those shortly. All right, you can add things to an array or remove things from an array. All right, notice that you can add things to an array using push. All right, and when you do that, the opposite of push is pop. All right, you can also add things to the beginning or remove things from the beginning of the array with shift and unshift. There's also associate arrays. All right, so let's suppose that this is the last thing I'm going to show you, I believe, in here at least. So what do we have in here for array methods? All right, we're still doing fine on time here. I'm going to run over again probably a little bit. But so when I come in here, let's remove the stuff we've got. Okay, And let's create some states. So let states equal bracket bracket. Let's get rid of the apartment and the string. We don't, well, maybe we might use the string. I don't know, but for now at least, let's get rid of both those. In fact, let's put 4 states in here. We'll put in Missouri. We'll put in Illinois. We'll put in Iowa. And we'll put in Wisconsin. All right, that's it. Now, you already should know how you can reference the different names, etc., that are in here. The problem is, when you look at this, what is Missouri? It's states 0. What's Illinois? It's states 1. What's Iowa? It's states 2. What's Wisconsin? It's states 3, which makes it a little bit harder to work with this stuff. Not impossible, but a little bit harder than it really, I think at least, has to be. So we could come in and let's go back to where we just were here and go down towards the bottom. And where was that associative array? All right. Named indexes. There we go. So when we set this up, all right, we could have done this. And this, what I'm about to show you, should work. All right, so I'm going to put a bracket here. Okay, and we're going to say states mo, make it caps, equals Missouri. States IL equals Illinois. Put that semicolon back there. States IA equal Iowa. And finally, states WI equal Wisconsin. All right. Now, what did that buy us? At first blush, it may not look like it bought us anything, but I don't have to now worry. Gee, what number again was? Imagine there were all 50 states. Is West Virginia 49, 48, 47? Is it 50, etc.? I should now be able to say alert states IA. All right, and I think that that's the right syntax, but we're going to find out. And we're going to see if it says Iowa or not. And it does. So what you get with an associative array is, rather than using numbers as your indexes, you can use strings, which can make it a much more pleasurable user experience. All right, let's take a quick look then. So some array methods. You can convert arrays to strings. You can convert strings to arrays. You can use pop to remove the last element from an array. You can use push to add a new element to the end of an array. You can use shift to remove the first element of an array. You can use unshift, all right, to remove, to add to the beginning of an array. All right. And there's a couple other nice things that are in here. Let's do this. I'm going to go back. I want to end it with this. So I'm going to come back and see if I can add my people in the apartment again. So let me just control Z my way out of here. so we've got that. Now, you've already seen this, okay? You saw what it looked like. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say, I'm not going to print all this stuff out that we had before. I'm just going to say apartment 0, apartment 1, apartment 2, apartment 3, apartment 4, apartment 5, apartment 5, apartment 6, and apartment 7. All right, not a big thing right there. You see exactly what happened. And hopefully you can already figure out what should print out here. Throws everybody in there, Scott, etc. And I guess I didn't put in my \n. All right, let's say in here plus \n. So we have them all on a new line. Okay, so let me add that to each one of these. All right, so look now. Well, it didn't give me a new line. Why wouldn't that have worked? There. Okay, not a problem. You can see it. All right, but I'm going to come in here and I'm going to run another command. Okay, and I'm going to say this. I'm going to say apartment dot sort. And then I'm going to put this in here again. And I want to see if it's changed at all. So there's my names, and then run it again. And now look, by running the sort command, these are in alphabetic order. Now, just so you know too, what if I didn't like that? What if for some reason I wanted it in reverse alphabetic order? Then now I can say apartment dot reverse, and I can run it again. So what we get in here is our originals, our sorted list, and our sorted list in descending order. All right, that's enough on arrays for right now, just for a beginning type of class for you. When I come back, I'm going to talk about if statements, and I'm going to talk about switches.